So we hit 300 subscribers. Thank you so much to everyone who did that. That's amazing that we got there pretty quickly. Maybe now we could try and aim for 400, which would be amazing. So if you're not subscribed yet, please do so, because I make Marvel and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and DC videos and all that all the time. But a video very similar to this actually is the most popular video on my channel, except in it I only rank the 11 shows. So here I'm going to go a step further and rank every single MCU TV show season. Although a lot of these can be argued as not being MCU canon anymore, but this is pretty much the entirety of Marvel television. The final season will be Helstrom, debuting in October, but that'll likely be a one-season show. Disney Plus shows are being made by the movie people, so they're kind of off on their own. It's kind of depressing looking back and realizing how at one point, Marvel television was just like the Arbor's. It was everywhere. There was a season out or airing at every point of the year, it felt like, and it also felt like these seasons could go on and on forever. But I guess all good things come to an end at some point anyway. But I'll be keeping these pretty short and sweet, because I don't want this video to be insanely long, and also a reminder that as I'm making this, S.H.I.E.L.D. still has 4 more episodes to air of its 7th season. So let's get into this. So in 28th place is Inhumans. In last place, Inhumans is 8 episodes of an irredeemable mess. The Inhumans are amazing in the comics, but the show does absolutely nothing even kind of interesting with them. And the cast is unbelievable too, which makes this whole thing even more upsetting. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. had built up the Inhumans for 2 years at this point, and yet the show did nothing to use some of the amazing storytelling that S.H.I.E.L.D. had set up. What a disappointing mess. In 27th place is Jessica Jones Season 2. So the Marvel Netflix shows had quite a few misses over their 4-year run, but in my opinion it doesn't get worse than this. Jessica Jones came out of the gate swinging for the sky with its amazing first season, yet somehow it failed to deliver on any level with the second season. Taking some of the great characters and making them boring, writing out others instantly, and sacrificing interesting plots for melodramatic ones makes this season just really frustrating. I still get annoyed thinking about it. In 26th place is Runaways Season 2. So I've always been a bit more harsh on Runaways than most. I never really got insanely into the show, but I still found quite a bit to like about the first and third seasons. Season 2 was so hard for me to get through though. It actually might be the longest it's taken me to get through a season of Marvel TV, because I remember this being on my watch list for weeks before I finally got through it. It was just so frustrating that his team finally goes on the run at the end of Season 1 just to spend most of the second season in their Runaways matches from the comics. Like, cool, you have the hideout, but do you really need to spend the whole season in here? In 25th place is Agent Carter Season 2. So Agent Carter is another Marvel show that I'm more harsh on than most, but in my opinion the characters is the highlights of the show, like Peggy, Howard, Jarvis and Sousa make it watchable. As far as the plot goes though, it can be quite uninteresting, at least to me. It's one of those shows that while I definitely wouldn't have been against seeing it get a third season, I can also completely see why it was cancelled. Like, they advertised the show as being the beginning of S.H.I.E.L.D., but they spent 2 seasons on everything but that. In 24th place is Agent Carter Season 1. So the first season of the show is definitely better than the second, but not by much. In my opinion, the final 3 or 4 episodes of the first season is by far the best run of episodes on the entire show, and if the whole show had been on par with those 4, then this would have been a pretty damn good addition to the Marvel Universe. Plus, the setting of New York is just much more suited to Peggy and the stories they're telling than the set of LA. In 23rd place is Luke Cage Season 2. So are we noticing a trend with second seasons in the Marvel Universe? This was another season that I was pretty underwhelmed by, and full disclosure, but I wasn't huge on Luke Cage's first outing either, but there was still some enjoyment to be had in that season. And Luke Cage Season 1 still felt pretty surprisingly grounded considering the subject matter. Season 1 also had a somewhat cinematic look that reminded me of Daredevil, but that all seemed to go out the window in the second season to make a disappointing one. That was somewhat redeemed by the incredibly fun 11th episode that featured the Heroes for Hire team up we all wanted, but it wasn't enough to make this season worth a watch. In 22nd place is Iron Fist Season 1. Okay, so we're starting to get into the area of things I thought were at least a fun watch, and Iron Fist Season 1 was just that. I know a lot of people dislike this a lot, and there are some good and understandable reasons for that, but I really dug this grounded take on the Iron Fist of Kunlun. I thought Ward Meacham was a surprisingly strong character, and even though they were hard to follow, a lot of the fight scenes were actually really solid. The hallway and elevator stuff in episode 4, the fights in episode 6, and the fight inside the hand compound towards the end of the season come to mind. It's not perfect, it's not great, but I still think this was a welcome addition to the Marvel Netflix universe. In 21st place is Runaways Season 1. So Runaways' first season was one that got worse as the season went on, but I thought it started in a very strong place. Bringing the characters together for the first time and having them discover the horrible people their parents are was extremely compelling, and some of the Marvel TV stuff that I actually remember pretty fondly. This season also got pretty interesting when they started delving into some cool time travel stuff, and as a whole this wasn't a terrible way for the show to start. In 20th place is Runaways Season 3. So Season 3 is just barely better than the first season, and that's for a few small reasons. One is that the connections to the wider Marvel TV-verse are fantastic, and the inclusion of the Darkhold from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Cloak and Dagger crossover meant that this season was one of the most connected in probably all of Marvel TV. And it was also pretty unexpected to come from this show in particular. On top of all of this, you can't go wrong with the choice to have the end of your show be a time travel episode that lets you revisit the show's past. The season as a whole may have been a little clunky in many places, but it had enough that worked to make it enjoyable. In 19th place is Luke Cage Season 1. So I've already said that as a whole, I wasn't crazy about the show, but the reason I chose to put it here is because the first half of the season, which focuses on Cottonmouth and what Luke's been up to since Jessica Jones, is very, very good and on par with what we'd expect from the Marvel Netflix universe to this point. It's the second half that really lets the whole show down. The second half is much more comparable to things like Iron Fist Season 1 and Defenders than the early Netflix seasons, and if the whole season kept up the quality, this could really have been an all-time great. In 18th place is The Punisher Season 2. So I'm not gonna lie, but I was really disappointed in this when it first came out. The fact that Frank spent 2 seasons not being the Punisher and then becoming the Punisher in the final minute of the entire show is absolutely rage-inducing. But pretty much every time Frank gets in a fight, it's fantastic. And despite Jigsaw's face not actually being that scarred, he was a pretty great villain. In my opinion though, this is dumb Marvel at its best. There isn't a whole lot of substance to this, and this is one of those seasons that you just shouldn't really think about very much, and when you don't think about it, it can be fun. In 17th place is Jessica Jones Season 3. So Season 3 was a nice middle ground. It was a colossal step up from the second season, but it never reached the heights of Season 1, bar one particular episode. But the writers definitely knew cancellation was a huge possibility, and so they did the best they could to make this a decent ending to the show. It also had one of Marvel's more interesting character arcs in the shape of Trish Walker's Hellcat. It's similar to Punisher Season 2 and Runaways Season 3 I guess, in that there's a lot of iffy stuff here, but there's just enough that you can enjoy. In 16th place is Cloak and Dagger Season 2. Cloak and Dagger was one of the bigger surprises for me personally when it comes to Marvel television. Being so far down the list, it obviously wasn't perfect, but I was really taken aback by how I was invested in 2 pretty obscure Marvel characters. When Daredevil got cancelled, it was a signifier that Marvel Netflix was dead. When Cloak and Dagger got cancelled, it was the signifier that Marvel TV was dead. Season 2 had more of a focus on mayhem, and while it was cool seeing Tandy and Tyrone not at each other's throats the whole season, I just slightly preferred their origin story over their second outing. In 15th place is Cloak and Dagger Season 1. Now obviously Season 1 goes here, but yeah, the chemistry between Tandy and Tyrone is undeniable. The show falls in that nice sweet spot of not being amazing, but being thoroughly entertaining, and it never really drops below that. I never really found myself angry or frustrated at the show. I was upset when it got cancelled, but I was happy with how the 2 characters turned out, and I just hope it isn't forever before we see them in live action again. In 14th place is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 6. So the first S.H.I.E.L.D. season on this list, and despite it being my least favourite, there are still enough things to work to make this an easy season to place. I don't dig the story of the season, but the visuals, the soundtrack, Fitzsimmons on their own for a good while, Daisy's badass new costume, and Sarge being a genuinely cool addition means this is still in the top half of Marvel TV. In 13th place is The Defenders. So honestly, The Defenders might actually be the most disappointing show on this list. They dropped the ball so hard in the second half that it went to boring and a show I watch while I'm on my phone so quickly. But the first 4 episodes are actually pretty in line with what you'd want. The characters slowly coming together, their interactions being meaningful, the clash of colour and style, it all culminates in a badass hallway fight that showcases each of their abilities very well. That first half is damn near perfect, and that's the only reason it gets this high up. In 12th place is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 1. So this is one of the seasons on here that I'll defend to the day I die. Once that reveal happens, the season obviously kicks it up a notch, but those first 15 episodes are still thoroughly enjoyable and needed, and the reveals wouldn't work without that character development. If you haven't seen this season on a rewatch, then please do yourself a favour and check it out because it really does change how you feel about it. In 11th place is The Punisher Season 1. So like all Marvel Netflix shows, The Punisher Season 1 also has that problem where he doesn't become the titular character till towards the end. But following Frank Castle in the aftermath of Daredevil is still genuinely great. Seeing him get involved with Micro and breaking out the guns when he needs makes for pretty compelling TV. And John Bernthal is perfect casting. It just sucks that Season 2 dropped the ball again so hard. In 10th place is Iron Fist Season 2. So this is probably the biggest jump in quality on this list in my opinion. Season 1 was a passable show that occasionally had some good stuff. Season 2 was a full-on comic book show with costumes and supervillains and everything. I'd actually go so far to say that this is the most superhero season in Marvel Netflix. It even beats out Daredevil in that department. But if you clocked out after Season 1, just give 2 a try, although the ending will definitely leave a sour taste in your mouth knowing that the show isn't coming back. In 9th place is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 3. So S.H.I.E.L.D.'s third outing is a tad messy in the middle. It has an extremely strong start and ending, but those middle episodes fumble quite a bit. That said, the first 10 episodes have some of S.H.I.E.L.D. at its very best, and the final is so satisfying. It does a perfect job at getting us ready for the dark and depressing turn that S.H.I.E.L.D. ends up taking in the 4th season. In 8th place is Daredevil Season 2. So this is the one season I legitimately cannot understand the criticism about. People act like it absolutely destroyed the show, and while it's not on par with seasons 1 and 3, 2 is still a very, very good 13 episodes, with the first 4 episodes possibly being the best string in Marvel television. Sure, it starts to trip a little when Elektra and the Hand come in, but even there I still think it's an extremely watchable show, and even while the Elektra stuff is going on, you still have the Frank Castle subplots and all that sort of stuff, so there is that. In 7th place is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 2. So truth be told, depending how S.H.I.E.L.D.'s final 4 episodes go, this one will change, because I really love this season. I think the beginning of this season is the only time it really takes its time, but everything after that is perfect S.H.I.E.L.D. This season also masterfully handles introducing new characters and instantly making them favourites. This season was an instant reminder that the quality from the end of season 1 was what the show always could have been. In 6th place is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 7. So yeah, like I said, this could totally change depending on how the season goes. But so far I'm pretty fine putting it here, due to episodes 4 onwards. Episodes 1 to 3 were a good setup, but personally it was episode 4 that really started to bring the season to where I'd like it to be. No Fitz is a pain, and I'm a little worried they're not going to get everything wrapped up as well as season 5 did, but so far I've been pretty happy with this season. In 5th place is Jessica Jones Season 1. So this might actually be the most overlooked season in Marvel television. It's fantastic and it was a huge surprise. Also, since this season came fresh off the heels of Daredevil Season 1, it kinda made us think that all the Marvel Netflix shows were going to have quality like this. David Tennant's Kilgrave makes this season. He makes everything so worrying and creepy and gives you a real sense of how the hell are they going to stop him. Season 2 messed up so badly that it really makes you ask, should they have gotten rid of Kilgrave or Tennant at all? In 4th place is Daredevil Season 1. So this is the season that started Marvel Netflix, and it still remains one of the best. And to a lot of people, it still is the best. It's crazy how good this was, and Charlie Cox was such an amazing choice to play Matt. The fight scenes felt like movie quality, and while S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 2 have been great so far, this was the first indicator that Marvel TV could play on par with the movies. In 3rd place is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 5. So this season will probably always be the one I remember the most fondly. I was absolutely floored by it when watching it live, but on rewatches there's just a couple of episodes right after they return to the present that aren't as strong as they could be, and that's why it's here. Literally that's it. A few tiny missteps in a huge season, while everything else is perfect. It's an insane plot that works so well, and I think this actually might be the most dark and depressing season of the show, but they handle it masterfully. In 2nd place is Daredevil Season 3. So this season and the next one are both perfect, so honestly they should be tied for 1st place. But I decided to go with which I personally love more, and so Daredevil is here. A season that really does serve as an ending to the show as a whole, and it's a love letter to it too. Nothing is a weak point in this season, and it's so depressing to know that we might never see these actors playing these perfect characters with this amazing writing ever again. And in 1st place is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 4. So yeah, this is in my opinion the absolute best season of Marvel television. It just can't be beat. It's a perfect season and a shining example of what a 22 episode season of television should be. There's no fault, no weak point, it's 10 out of 10 writing from episode 1 to episode 22, and you can tell the love and care that went into making this season. I love season 7 so far, and I like season 6, but a part of me is always going to be a little sad about the path the show took after season 5, because season 4 and 5 still have a very similar feel to them. Season 6 and 7 is when it starts to feel a little different. But yeah, there you have it. That's how I would rank all 28 seasons of Marvel television or MCU television. But how would you rank them? Do you agree with my list? Do you disagree? And please remember to subscribe and all that. Hopefully we can reach that 400 goal pretty soon, just like we did with 300. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.